Hi, everyone. Welcome to One-on-One with Tech Giants. My name is Yasmin Lukatz. I'm the founder and the executive director of ICON. The horizontal director of the New Tomorrow Summit is to highlight the lessons learned from the unprecedented global situation we're all facing, and to utilize these learnings for the benefit of us all. One crucially important lesson is how we are all connected, how we all impact each other, and how much we all depend on each other, regardless of nationality, race, or gender. With this in mind, and following recent events in both the US and Israel, we would like to stress the importance of the values that the Pear Center and the IEC promote: cooperation, partnership, respect, shared living, and peace building. With that, I'd like to welcome Gil Shwed, founder and CEO of Checkpoint. Gil Shwed is Checkpoint's founder and chief executive officer. He is considered the inventor of the modern firewall and one of the world's most experienced experts in cybersecurity. Gil has received numerous accolades for his individual achievements and industry contributions, including an honorary doctorate of science from the Technion, the World Economic Forum's Global Leader for Tomorrow Award, the Academy of Achievements Golden Plate Award, and the Israel Prize for Technology and Innovation. Gil, thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Good morning, good evening, wherever you are.
Yes, we have people from all over the world with us today. So let's start. So you have been with Checkpoint since 1993. When I read that, I was like thinking, what did I do in 1993? So that's 27 years. How do you keep it interesting and engaging for you?
I think one of the challenges and tasks that I have is to reinvent. First is to push the company forward and reinvent myself. So in the early days, I was the developer, then I was the sales guy, then I learned what it's like to build a team. And even over the last decade, I've changed the way I manage, I changed the way I work. And of course, part of that is myself, and part of it is the company itself, is what's the next challenges for cyber? What's the next challenges for a Checkpoint? It's a fine balance between keeping the company culture into changing it and pushing it forward. And sometimes, like today, there is external events that push us forward, like the coronavirus, which like in few weeks changed the entire workspace and provided me with a great challenge. Again, it's not positive circumstances, but in the last few months, I worked more and I've changed more and than ever before. And I've changed, by the way, many opinions that I had about the workplace and how we work and how we can achieve things. And touch wood, the company is operating and we achieve good results so far.
You're not the only one who's been with the company for this. I guess there is something in the culture that promotes and lets people stay longer. You said you had new realizations during this COVID-19 about working remotely. What are they?
First, I think that it can work. For years, I believe that the best way to work is at the office with my people and travel and spend a lot of time all over the world, especially with my Silicon Valley colleagues. And for almost 27 years, I traveled at least once a month. In the early days, more than half my time was traveling. And now I learned that I can work from home, I can be productive, effective, that remote working and Zooming and so on can be even more productive than traveling and being at the office. It's not just true about myself. I learn a lot about other people, and we do a lot of surveys and collect information. Actually, 70 to 80% employees report that they are as productive or more productive working from home, which is kind of, at least for me, it's a big surprise. And that's something that we should learn. By the way, it also makes, and I think that's the great thing, the world much more connected and much closer. If before, to justify a meeting with a customer in New York or in San Francisco required to justify a week-long travel and huge overhead, today it's a quick, I'm willing to speak to everyone. So I'm speaking to more people, I'm meeting more people, and the world somehow becomes much more connected despite the fact that physically we cannot meet.
I think also we are the beneficiaries of this, that we have this amazing conference with people from all over the world.
This conference is a good example.
Exactly. You made a conscious choice to keep the company in Israel. I was going to ask you about challenges and opportunities that arise from that, but it seems like it's not relevant anymore. with the new tomorrow. But what are the challenges and opportunities you faced throughout the years with the decision of keeping the headquarters in Israel?
I think the challenge is that I think there's great people in Israel, there's great business people, there's great technologists, there's a lot of good things. And let's put it that way. In the early days, the main challenge was, and again, we're talking 27 years ago, that Israel didn't have the right infrastructure in terms of human capital. We needed to reinvent everything. It's not that I could have found an experienced sales guy, an experienced quality assurance person, or experienced person that runs a 100-person development organization. We had to develop all the methodologies by ourselves, and that was a very interesting challenge that created a very unique structure and culture. Today it's very different. Today Israel has pretty much the entire infrastructure, has great people in all the domains. Today the challenge remains, and that's something that didn't change, the fact that we are far away from our customers. And it's not just physically, it's the culture, it's the fact that when people buy something, they want to relate to people that are from the same culture, the same location, and so on. And unfortunately, as much as we can try in Israel, we are far away, and culturally we're very different than Americans or British or Japanese. And it's very, very hard to adapt ourselves. And again, we compete with global companies or with American companies. That's the number one challenge. How do we play in a fair game in when the customers are dominated elsewhere?
Let's talk a little bit about the post-COVID-19 world. You started touching this when you said you opened to working from home, or working from home changed a little bit. What about cybersecurity? What opportunities, what new threats arise from this?
Cybersecurity will change a lot. I think what happened in the last 3 months is we pushed forward 5 and maybe even 10 years of technological evolution. More services were moved online. Companies removed barrier. Let's look at our development environment. We allowed developers to work just from within the company physically, so we can keep our intellectual property, and the entire development environment was structured for that. In one day, we have to change all of that and allow people to access from home. Now the barriers are
the entire world.
Yeah, it's not just us. Again, it's everyone. And this rapid change means that the hackers will find the ways. They can, the same way that my developers can get in, the hackers can find a way to get in. The hackers can find a way to hack a personal computer of an employee, and through that get into our crown jewels. And that's a challenge that the entire world is facing. And now after the corona, we're saying the corona pandemic may be over. We need to protect ourselves against the cyber pandemic that's coming, and we need to prevent that. We know it's coming, we know it will happen, and we need to secure it. And we need to make sure that doesn't cause as much damage as the original one.
So what would be the specific areas of focus within the cyber world?
There's a few areas. One is on one side, the enablement of remote access, on the other end, doing it securely and securing all the access. Second is utilizing new methods of securing. For example, now we need to secure people's computer at home. Before we only allowed people to access the office from a corporate laptop. Now, and only certain environments, not the development environment. Now we need to secure people's computer at home so they are not being taken over. We need to learn about the new remote break-ins, and we see a lot of these holes in the environment. We need to start stopping them and learn about the new development on the hacker side. Then there's the entire cloud environment. Companies move tons of applications to the cloud very, very quickly. And we need to make sure that these are secure environments. This is very challenging because the new environment, both the website and the cloud side, are with levels of securities that are way, way behind. I mean, there's so much. I mean, the applications are interconnected, things like containers, serverless functions. Don't want to be too technical, but these environments are much, much harder to secure. And today they are, I wouldn't say completely insecure, but the level of security is very low. And by the way, we find it. We're getting into government environments that overnight moved from either not being online or being online with very low volume, and suddenly they are the main stage. And the level of security on many of them is way too weak. And that's something that we really need to harden.
You spoke about, I mean, it's kind of obvious that this pandemic, sorry, is pushing through and is like giving technology a leap, advancing it faster than it would have otherwise. We spoke about cyber. What about other technologies? Which other technologies you think will thrive post-COVID-19?
I think everything to do with remote access, teleconferencing, video conferencing. We're looking, as a company, we're also looking how to better enable the product. If in the past, setting up a customer meeting was coming and getting people from different locations, setting up, let's say, a demo environment and so on. Today, first, it's much easier because it's much easier to assemble people from 5 locations and a customer that may also be in 5 locations and get into one meeting. On the other hand, we need to see how we install the product remotely, how we support it remotely, how do we demonstrate it remotely. Now, all of these can be done much better remotely, but it needs a change. It's not necessarily things that exist.
And, you know, as a CEO of a big company with offices throughout the world, I hear many people saying, you know, here, Twitter told everyone they don't need to come back. All the other big companies said, here I'm in Silicon Valley, said, don't come back before January. People talking maybe commercial real estate is going to go down. Maybe the entire labor market is going to become global. You know, what are your plans? Are you going to keep the offices?
We're going to keep the offices. I think the other company is also going to keep the offices. I do think that these changes can be made and can be positive. So we allow more people to work from home, save time, be more focused. Remember, by the way, that the environment now is not the environment that we're going to have 6 months or 12 months from now, because right now people are stuck at home. The only thing they can do is keep their job and work hard. There's not much competition on our time. In a year from now, there will be competition on our time, so working from home won't be that easy. So I mean, it will be not the same environment.
Go to school.
The what?
The kids
will
go to
get.
school.
Yeah, then you can leave the room. Then you have then you can go outside your room and watch TV, for example. Today it's either I'm working or I'm taking care of the kids, and I have 6 of them. So I mean, the environment will be different, and we need to keep. I think these changes are very positive, and we are doing a lot of work to define them. We're doing dozens of roundtables every week with our employees. How do they imagine the future workplace? How do, for example, for years we learned that how you measure employee. You show up every day X hours to the meeting, and somehow we watch you and we see what you're doing, and that's productivity. How do you measure productivity when you are at home? Is it hours? Is it the level of work that you produce? These can be great changes, by the way, but we need to define them because we don't have these mechanisms. We relied on old processes like staying at the office to measure how hard you work. Now there may be better measures to do that. By the way, there's other things like availability. We see many employees that report, again, speaking about Israel, now we can be available at night. We can do a conference call with a customer at 10 at night when it's in the middle of the day in California, and that's great now. Before that, it used to be, I need to complete everything by 6 o'clock, and 6 o'clock, it's only before 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. in California. So, I mean, there's a lot of good opportunities that are starting to become here. And by the way, we also need to, right now, many of us became addicted to work because we are at home all day. We can work, from the morning till night or later than that. And we need to keep to see how to keep the balance of work so we don't burn out.
Nice. I suspect you were working hard before too. Let's talk about startups for a minute or two. Is this, I know Checkpoint was very active in the M&A market. Do you take advantage of opportunities that are arising because of the situation? Are you still in the market for startups?
First, we're very much in the market, both for cooperating with startups and also for acquiring startups. Right now, I don't see many opportunities as a result of the corona. The startups survive and they work, which is not surprising, by the way, because startups, the companies that have a hard time are the companies that need to survive on their own cash flow. Most of the startups don't run on their own cash flow, and they usually have a year or two to run on other people's money, on the investors' money before it's time. So, and I don't know what will happen to the startup market, if startups will find it more difficult now in the post-corona era to survive. But regardless of that, we're looking for the best technologies. We're looking for the best cooperation. We're looking to provide mainly more value to our customers, and that remains the same. And
I'm sure you'll be asked a lot. What would be like the one golden advice you can give an entrepreneur?
To build an effective and efficient business that run on their own skill, on their own customers, and not to rely on, not to build a huge company and raise tons of money. That's the secret of taking a successful idea, a great group, and turning them into a failure. Over-reliance on too much resources. That, I mean, from every perspective, that means that success has to sometimes be too big, and mainly it means that the main benefit of a startup is being small and being fast and being agile. When you become too big, when you have 50 employees, 100 employees, 200 employees, you lose that benefit. You don't gain the benefit that big companies have, like a culture that works, an install base and things like that. But you become slower and it's harder to move things around. So stay lean and mean, move fast. And if you can rely on your customers and build a business model that relies on your customers, then you'll be a success.
Lean and mean. I like those ending words. We run out of time, Gil, but if you can tell me in one sentence, where do you see yourself in 10 years? What's the future for you? What's for you?
I wish I knew. First, I'd like to believe that I'll be related to Checkpoint or within Checkpoint or the same job. I like to think the Checkpoint architecture, we call it Infinity, will provide the overall architecture for cybersecurity, which I think we're starting to do now. We're doing it quite successfully, but we're still in the beginning. And, you know, from the beginning, I never defined myself for more than 2 or 3 years. In all my career, when I started working in computers when I was 10, I got my first job when I was 12. Since the age of 14, I'm working full time. And still, I never defined where I'm going to be in more than 3 years. Actually, the time that I defined 3 years was the beginning of Checkpoint. I've said the next 3 years, I'm going to dedicate 100% to Checkpoint. And here I am after 27 years. I'd like to think that I can still provide value in the next 3 or even 10 years to Checkpoint.
Gil, thank you very much for being with us today. It was incredible. And thank you to the IC and the Paris Center for this opportunity. Have a great conference.
Thank you very much. Really